Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Hoover City School Board of Education meeting. If you so choose, please join us in a moment of silence. Thank you. If you'll stand for your Pledge of Allegiance. Salute, pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You tried every time.
I agree with you. We can change it. It's okay. I love it. This evening, Ms. Netterville is out, unfortunately. So Dr. Simmons will call roll to establish a quorum.
Ms. Baumann,
Here.
Ms. Tosny,
Here.
Ms. Madonna,
Here.
Mr. Kelly,
Here.
Mr. Kendrick.
Here.
Thank you. Board members, in front of you have your, the agenda for tonight's board meeting. I need a motion and a second to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Agenda passes. Mr. Durance, we have recognition. It's exciting.
All right, thank you, board members, for having me here tonight. We have some proclamations and some recognitions to give out right now, so we were going to go ahead and get that taken care of. First one, you will see, this is in regards to the Hoover City Schools Rise Mentoring Program. We want to thank all of our volunteers that volunteered their time and effort to be able to mentor our fine students, and you will see right here, there's a list of all the mentors that took part in this program, and there are their lovely faces right there. And that would lead me to the first proclamation that we have in regards to this evening. I'd like to bring forth Ms. Candace Van Wanderham.
Yeah, say just a couple of words about Rise real quick. We did want to put some faces with names. If I can have Patty Turner come out, just to be really brief. This was really successful. We had 90% of our mentors want to return to this program. Sorry. We had 90% of our mentors that wanted to return to this program. We had 75, 78 trained. My stat slide is, we've already seen that. But we were in 4 schools: River Chase Elementary, Rocky Ridge, Simmons, and what was my other one? Green Valley. Thank you, Patty. But I wanted Patty Tanner. She is a counselor that worked with a lot of our mentors real quick. And I really just wanted her to say a few words about what this really meant for our kids in our schools. And I want to thank Ms. Baumann, because without her help, I'm not sure we would have gotten this off the ground. And then I'll talk a little bit more about what we're doing with it this year later in the meeting. Patty.
I just wanted to say that it was just a wonderful experience for our students. We had 14 mentors and 14 students. They came once a week for 30 minutes and did different activities like reading or playing games or just talking. How our students benefited was just the connection. You know, we know that students do better and perform better academically when they feel connected to their school. And these were adults that were investing in them, and for that we were really appreciative. So we had them asking at the end of the year if their mentor was coming back next year. I've had students ask me this year, and one mentor's even following one student to Barry. So it was very successful for our students.
Fantastic.
And Candace, while we have you up here, we have a proclamation that we would like to present to you on behalf of the Hoover City Schools Board of Education. And I will read it aloud. Whereas Hoover City Schools recognizes that any day, week, or month is a good time to remind all of us the need to remember that respect, dignity, compassion, and humility are 4 essential ingredients in the creation and maintenance of a civilized society, whereas in the heart of all of us lies the idea that we hold the power of kindness within us. And whereas by knowing and understanding and actually using this power, we have the ability to send out a positive ripple that may travel for miles. Whereas no one, not matter how young or small, is too little to make a difference in our community and our world. And whereas through acts of kindness, we can promote healthy behaviors and positive dynamics within our schools and our community. Whereas we seek to stand up against bullying in our schools, workplaces, community, and whereas we seek to cultivate caring, kindness, and compassion within our schools and community through our youth by teaching them that kindness is the mark that you leave on the world. And this is in regards to something we have coming up this month, something very near and dear to your heart. This is for Be Kind Week and for Pink Shirt Day that will be later this month, the 22nd to the 26th. This is on behalf of the board. Now, therefore, be it resolved that I, Dr. Tara Simmons, Interim Superintendent of Hoover City Schools, do hereby proclaim the week of February 22nd through 26th of this year Be Kind Week and February 24th as Pink Shirt Day. Absolutely.
Thank the board for supporting this initiative. I think it's really important. We do cultivate kindness every day. This week is just when we celebrate it. And I look forward to telling you what is up for this year. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And if I could, two lovely folks we have in the audience, if I could have Ms. Pamela McClendon and Ms. Sophia Nategi, if y'all can come up, please. And we are so very lucky to have these fine folks with us. They are here in behalf of the Governor's App Challenge. They are from River Chase Career Connection Center. Their app, the Life app, was chosen as the school and the district winner. So we are very proud of all of them and for all they've done. If you would like to talk a little bit about the app, if you so choose to.
Hi, I'm Sophia Nategi. Last year I created an app, which is basically like a life simulator, choose your own story kind of game where you make decisions that affect your final choices in life. And it basically shows that every choice that you make will affect the future. And it's just like a morality kind of game. And I made it last year just for fun. And then Ms. McClendon, my wonderful teacher, told me about the Governor's App Challenge. And I submitted it, and now I've won. So I hope to move on to the state level, and I'm really excited to progress forward.
That's awesome.
Very, very good.
Congratulations.
That's okay. That's okay. We thank you so much for coming. We thank you so much for making the time to appear with us, and we truly appreciate all that you do out at RC3. We are so very proud of you, and thank you for representing Hoover City Schools so well. We thank you very much.
Great job.
Awesome.
And speaking of RC3, we also have Dr. Deborah Smith with us. For those of you who may not know, the month of February in Alabama is known as Career and Technical Education Month. And on behalf of the Hoover City Schools Board of Education, we would like to present you with a proclamation that I will read aloud. Whereas February in Alabama is known as Career and Technical Education Month and is intended to help promote how career and technical education programs are preparing students for the future. Whereas career clusters represent nearly 80 career pathways for students, and more than 80% of the students in Alabama are taking at least one career and technical education class. Whereas nearly 175,000 students in Alabama, grades 9 through 12, are involved in career and technical education programs. The career and technical education program continues to grow. Whereas Hoover City Schools boast a strong career and technical education program. Whereas every member of our community should understand that having career technical experiences can set students up for success in the future. Whereas I encourage all to take the time to inquire on the benefits of career and technical education programs and what they can do for their student. Now, therefore, be it resolved that I, Dr. Tara Simmons, Interim Superintendent, do hereby proclaim the month of February 2021 as Career and Technical Education Month in Hoover City Schools. Next up, we have a bright and shining face, Miss Jennifer Cole. If you would be able to come up here, please. And we are so very proud to have Jennifer with us. She is a bright and shining face in our building, one that I pass every morning when I come into the office. So she's always there to greet me with a smile. So I truly appreciate you. But this was back in late December. Jennifer was recognized as the Class Alabama Secretary of the Year. She was selected among 8 district finalists across the state. And we are just so lucky and honored to be able to have you here in Hoover City Schools. So we thank you so much. Jennifer, we have Victoria here. Thank you very much.
Great job. Thank you.
I wanted to say one other comment. Of course, I'm very blessed that Jennifer works in our department, but I did want to say there were almost 100 individuals nominated for this award, and then she was chosen in the top 8, and then to be recognized out of all of those across the state was an amazing accomplishment and just so deserving. And I wanted to mention that we're very thankful to have Jennifer in our office.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Veal, for adding that to this. The next one we have, can I have Ms. Claire Jones-Moore please come to the front? And recently, Ms. Claire Jones-Moore won the Outstanding Gifted Coordinator from the Alabama Association for Gifted Children. We are so blessed and honored to have you here as a part of Hoover City Schools. So we thank you very much for all that you do on a daily basis. And we'd love to present you this award as well.
Thank you so much.
And last but certainly not least, we have Miss Rhea Shaw. She is a senior at Hoover High School. And we are very honored to have Rhea here this evening. She was the winner of UAB's Word from the Mountaintop Oratory Contest. This was an essay contest designed to recognize and give students the opportunity to reflect on the words of Dr. Martin Luther King while connecting his message to issues facing our nation in the 21st century. And this contest was open to students across Birmingham City Schools, Shelby County Schools, Jefferson County, and Ms. Shaw was the winner, and we are just so incredibly proud of her. And Rhea, we would love to present you with this award. Absolutely. And all of those from the recognition section, if I can get you to take a photo out in the lobby there.
Great, thank you. At this time it's time for a public comment. Please state your name, topic on which you are speaking, and please be reminded that good name and character cannot be addressed, and individual student discipline matters may not be addressed as well. And you have 3 minutes.
And I would like to bring forth Miss Jenny McLaughlin. And her topic of discussion will be keeping schools fully open.
Thank you.
I take this off. Okay. I've tried really hard to get this to 3 minutes. Okay.
No, I'm talking about the mask. You can't-
Okay. My name is Jenny McLaughlin, and by day I work in health insurance as a data analyst, but my real job is a mom to Claire, who's in 5th grade at Brock's Gap, and Jack, who is in 2nd grade at South Shades Crest. I also live with an eating disorder. Now, my kids in elementary and intermediate school have had more. I practice this like 10 times and I didn't cry. So I'm not here on behalf of my own family, but for middle and high school kids in our community. We hear a lot about the growing obesity issue in children, and we know that since the start of the pandemic, kids are getting more screen time and less physical activity. But the food-related problem we don't talk enough about is eating disorders.
As someone who developed an eating disorder in the 7th grade that progressed dangerously in my junior year of high school, this is a very personal topic. I said that I live with an eating disorder because while it has been nearly 20 years since I was hospitalized, it is a lifelong condition and there is no cure. Unlike other medical diagnoses like alcoholism or drug addiction, a person cannot simply abstain or go cold turkey. Your body needs food to survive, and so it is a daily struggle. We feel like this is just the tip of the iceberg. Pediatricians are now seeing kids brought in with very progressed diseases, eating disorders and otherwise, because of school closures and the limited in-person interaction that children have with their family, with their teachers and friends who could have noticed changes earlier. In my personal experience, it was a teacher who approached my parents with concerns that led to my eating disorder diagnosis and treatment. In addition to my physical appearance, she saw a difference in my attitude, my personality, and my lack of laughter. If I had not been in front of that teacher on a daily basis, I'm not sure that I'd be alive. So saying that in another way is that being physically in school saved my life. Just some statistics, but the National Eating Disorder Association has reported a more than 75% increase in the number of calls and online chats compared to a year ago. Most eating disorder patients will take more than 3 years to physically recover, and that time frame will outlast the pandemic itself. And more than 10% of patients with an eating disorder will die younger than their peers because of the toll that this disease takes on your body. So I'm begging you, while our recent return to full-time in-person learning is certainly a win for our children, I must ask you to resist any future pressure for closure at any level. Others can talk about test scores, family stresses, and economic impact, but I'm asking you to consider life itself. I believe in this so much that I will soon be taking days off from my full-time job to serve as a sub in Hoover City schools. Because again, being physically in school saved my life, and I can't help but think about how many lives you have the power to save by continuing to keep our schools fully open.
Thank
Thank you
you.
very much.
Is that all we have tonight? Okay, thank you. Board members, in front of you, you have our consent agenda. I need a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda.
So much.
A second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, it passes. Dr. Simmons.
Yes, Ms. McKay, if you'll come forward, there are several items that you'll address on the agenda tonight, starting with the business actions.
Good evening, Board. I'd like to start with the cash disbursements for December 2020 equaled $2,720,000.45. Payroll for January 2021, $9,273,595.33. Included in your packet is the summary and general purpose financial statements for the month ended December 31, 2020. For the month ended December 31, 33.6% of our fiscal year budget revenue has been received. This month, you can see the large increase in your cash and local revenue is due to ad valorem receipts. Historically, Hoover City Schools has received the majority of the revenue generated from these taxes October through March, with a notable drop in collections the remainder of the year. The results of operations represent 3 months of activity. Accordingly, we would anticipate having spent approximately 25% of the budget for recurring expenditures. At this time, general fund expenditures are 22.8% of the budget. For the 3 months of activity, the current month's reserve is 8.4. In December, we made capital payments on the classroom addition at Berry Middle School and continuing HVAC projects. Special revenue fund expenditures for 3 months of activity were 4.5 million, or 21% of the budget.
I recommend that the business actions be approved. Thank you, Ms. McKay.
Board, I need a motion to approve the business action items. A second? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Business actions pass. Dr. Simmons?
Does anyone have any questions for Ms. McKay? Will you talk about the middle school concession vending bid? Please, Ms. McKay.
It is my recommendation that the middle school concession vending bid 2020-01 be awarded to the sole bidder, Coca-Cola Bottling Company. There were 2 invitations to bid extended and 1 response was received. And you have that bid tab included in your packet.
Are there any questions? I recommend that the middle school concession vending bid number 2021-01 be approved.
I'm sorry, I'm out of order.
Okay. I need a motion to approve the middle school concession and vending bid.
So moved.
A second? Any questions from the board?
I do. Coca-Cola is they're not considered, they're actually the manufacturer. I know Buffalo Rock is a distributor. So I'm
The
just
bottling
curious,
company.
just the marketing part of it. So can't be a sole source vendor, even though they're the manufacturer, correct?
They were just the sole bidder. They're not a sole source. So they were the only one that bid. When I reached out to Pepsi Cola to see why they didn't have representative, he said, and I quote, "Meant to, but slipped our mind."
Oh, really? Okay, well, Coca-Cola's a good partner in the community. I think they help a lot. But I'm just curious
Anyway.
because you've technically got a manufacturer bidding against a distributor. Pepsi goes through Pepsi. So anyway, don't really mean all that. Thank you.
Any other questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Dr. Simmons?
Ms. McKay, the district-wide painting bid.
Okay, I'm recommending the district-wide painting bid be awarded to the sole bidder, Advanced Painting, Inc., with a base bid per square foot and per linear foot. This bid includes the budgeted $159,000 from our state capital outlay funds for 2021 summer projects at each of our local schools. Those schools may also choose to identify additional areas of the school to be painted with local funds. There were 6 invitations to bid extended, 2 attended the pre-bid conference, and only 1 response was received. This bid is for a period of 3 years with a 1% increase at the end of year 1 and year 2.
Are there any questions? I recommend that the district-wide painting bid be approved.
Board, I need a motion to approve the district-wide painting bid. And a second? Any questions from the board?
Yes, Ms. Baumann. We did painting. Is this the same last year, Mr. Wilson, where we did, so how'd we do it? We had so much money for paint. Is this the same? You might want to explain it since I said it.
It
I
is
just
the
thought
same.
it was like.
We allocated a certain amount of money for our elementary schools, our middle schools, our high schools, and then the central office and the operations building this year.
Okay, so they bid based on here's all the money we got, which seemed to work out well, I think. We saved a good bit of money. Thank you.
And then if the local school said, oh, you know what, $8,000 didn't go very far, I'd like to do, you know, this particular library, then we would be able to do the media center with the local school
Right.
funds.
I mean, I think it's great. Saved us money.
Any other questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. One note, board members, your mics are off, and so if you do choose to speak, if you will just tap them on. Thank you.
Mine's showing green. Is it not on or you don't know?
If it's green, you're on.
Okay, good.
So you're good. Yours should stay on.
Okay. I'll turn it off. I'll turn it off.
Ms. McKay, would you please explain the chiller and cooling tower replacement bid?
Yes, thank you. I'm recommending the Simmons Middle School chiller and cooling tower replacement bid be awarded to the low bidder, McKelvey Mechanical, Inc., with a base bid of $747,368. This bid amount is $350,000 less than the budget. There were 6 invitations to bid extended and 5 responses were received. That bid tab is also attached. And just as additional information, this is money that we had actually set aside from our advancement and technology funds. So this was in our capital plan.
Are there any questions?
Yes, I have a question.
Yes, sir.
I'll watch it.
$350,000 less. I mean, that sounds like a good deal for Hoover City Schools, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I mean, can they do it for this?
Yes, sir.
And who makes sure that they do it for this?
So we had a pre-bid conference,
Mhm.
but we also pre-qualified the vendors.
Mhm.
So it's my understanding we've not done work with this particular vendor, but the research that was done was that this was a reliable
Okay.
company. And I guess we'll have to see for sure with Hoover City Schools, but I don't know if there's any additional information that Matt would like to share on this particular vendor.
Okay. Okay.
They can do the work, they have, they're doing work at Birmingham Airport, check the references in that regard, and they're pretty good company. So we don't have any concern at this point. As far as being under budget, we had some estimates done of budget costs by the architect and engineer, and we just came in that much lower on that. So, but the bid prices weren't that far apart. I think the next bid was $843, I think, something like that. So we're not that far off from what the competition is doing.
Very good.
I recommend that the Simmons Middle School chiller and cooling tower replacement bid be approved.
Board members, I need a motion for the chiller and cooling tower replacement bid. Couldn't get all that out. I need a motion, please.
So moved.
A second.
Second.
Any other questions from the board? All in favor?
All right.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Dr. Simmons?
Ms. McKay, would you please talk about the partial refunding of 2012 warrants?
Oh, perfect, perfect, thank you. I apologize, one, for bringing this to you last minute. Typically, we try to do a review and then ask for an action the next month, but this is just a hot item. We wanted to take advantage of the opportunities that we have. So just to give you a little background, new bonds are known as refunding bonds, and their proceeds are used to pay off the older bonds, referred to as refunded bonds. In other words, we're using one issue to repay our existing issue. Our current debt service for the 2012 warrants, principal and interest, is $33,228,400. If we move forward with the partial refunding, our estimated new debt service will be $32,352,875 for a total estimated gross savings of $875,525. This partial refunding will level out our annual savings without extending the final maturity. It still remains at February 2025. So I'd really like to take advantage of the $875,000 savings. As you can see, we're only going to do the refunding for 2023 through 2025. It's actually a little too late to work on 2022. If we were to refund that, our fees would be a little bit higher.
Are there any questions?
Sorry.
Yes, sir. No, you're okay.
Okay, I'm still.
You're okay.
The 800, what does it cost for the refunding? And is the 875 a net number or is that a gross number?
So basically what we're looking at is the original maturities were 5% average.
Mhm.
We're going to 1.25%. That 875 is going to be your gross.
Okay.
Any of the fees that would be paid are coming out of that principal amount right there, and it's typically about 1%.
And so does this money that we're gonna save over 3 years, right?
Yes, sir.
Does it-
Yes, sir.
Is it just kind of stays in our reserve fund?
Yes, sir.
Got it.
That's exactly right.
Any other questions? Okay. I recommend that the partial refunding of the 2012 warrants be approved.
Board, I need a motion to approve the 2012 warrant refunding. A second. Any other questions from the board?
Who's the person that gets the 1%, or the company that's getting the 1%?
Remember, we work with Raymond James
Yes,
and
I
then
do.
Hayward. Who?
Yeah, the
Yes,
attorney,
sir.
yeah, I know.
Yes,
Okay.
sir.
So it's Raymond James and Matt, I believe, I can't remember. Whatever, same guys last time.
I don't know how to say his last name, but
No, that's fine. So,
Winstead.
1%, that 1% of the principal of the bond? That seems like a lot. No,
And that's about average.
I'm sure it is. It's still.
Yes, sir.
So just
And
for
I
the
do
public,
think I'm being aggressive when I say the 1%. I do think it'll come in under that. It just depends on how fast we can move on this particular refunding.
right, and it's 1% of the 33 million, right?
It'll be 1% of the 24
Of the
million.
24 million.
Yes, sir.
Well, thank you for, I mean, I wondered, I mean, I know we can only call bonds once or twice. I don't know what the rules are. So we're,
And this is the last one for this one, for the 2012 warrant.
okay, well, great. Thank you.
So it's 8 teacher salaries. I'm trying.
There you go.
I'm trying.
Great. Any other questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you so much, Ms.
She
McKay.
has one more.
You've got one more. We're moving on to superintendent reports and
Yes.
information reports to,
Right. I appreciate Ms. McKay leading a committee to look at the assistant principal salary schedule. And this is just informational only presentation for the board's review. So Ms. McKay.
So this actually started with a dream of Dr. Murphy's, to be very honest. She wanted us to review all of the salary schedules, and we were going to do it in phases. So as you remember, a couple of years ago, we looked at our classified employees. And then she wanted us to address our assistant principals and our principals, then make it to our central office, and then again to our teachers, because that was the last schedule that had been updated. So if we could start with my presentation. Next page, if you don't mind, thank you. So the Assistant Principal Salary Review Committee was made up of district administrators as well as local principals and assistant principals. Dr. Maddox, I don't know if she's behind me, but she was my co-chair. And so I appreciated her support and her guidance as we worked through this committee and this proposal. The goals of the committee. The first goal was, this was even prior to receiving the results of the superintendent survey, but we wanted to develop a fair and competitive salary schedule to attract and retain highly effective administrators. And again, as you remember, when we looked at the results of the superintendent survey, parents, employees, and Hoover residents responded that retaining talented employees was the highest priority for our new superintendent. Develop a salary schedule that reflects education and knowledge. Develop a salary schedule that recognizes the professional liability. Develop a salary schedule that gives consideration to professional standards and requirements. And develop a salary schedule to narrow the gap between our middle school and our high school assistant principals. Our current AP salary schedule was compared to over-the-mountain schools as well as county and city systems our size, but a competitive schedule was not our only goal. We also wanted to compensate our middle school principals for the added duties and responsibilities that come with athletics. So you may ask, why now? Prior to full-time athletic directors, high school assistant principals were expected to attend all after-hour events. At the time, our high schools had fewer APs and no athletic directors to assume the duties and responsibilities that come with team sports. Today, our high schools have a full-time athletic director and support staff and twice as many administrators to spread the joy. This committee now wishes to compensate our middle school APs who find themselves covering more teams with the same number of administrators and no athletic director or support staff to share those same duties and responsibilities. Our proposed salary schedule eliminates the schedules for AA certification and doctorate. In their place, assistant principals will be paid based on a master's schedule with an advanced degree supplement. The range, there you go, thank you. A certified assistant principal with an AA certificate will receive an additional $4,000. A certified assistant principal with a doctorate will receive an additional $8,000. And of course, I had to put the disclaimer there, an assistant principal will be paid based on a master's schedule with an advanced degree supplement if the advanced degree is earned from a regionally accredited institution and held in his or her area of certification. One of the things I wanted to share here is if you looked at the salary schedules that we're eliminating in order to go from the master's to the AA and the AA to the doctorate, it was anywhere from $4,000 to $5,000 for each of those steps. So when we looked at the range of the over-the-mountain supplements for both degrees, It was between $7,000 and $9,500. And we went with the 8,000 to try to be competitive, but not break the bank.
So we're not doing this now, correct?
Well, I'd like for you to review it this month.
I don't mean to,
And then
I'm
take
talking
action.
about the state doesn't already mandate. I mean, we have a schedule now that says based on a bachelor's, master's, certificate, doctorate.
That's right, it's a master.
But we're not, so we're not already doing that, right?
Well,
I guess
we're
I'm
al-
lost.
We're already doing a master's and AA, which is the EDS, and then a doctorate. So we do that now. What we're trying to do is raise the master's salary just a tad bit so we're more competitive. And then we just added a supplement, making it a little bit easier.
I'll study.
Does that make sense? Are we
Not
good?
really, but I need to.
Okay. Call me.
And you did give it to us. I apologize. We had a lot of stuff.
It's okay. It's all right.
Yeah, exactly.
So in summary, the proposed AP salary schedule is more competitive with over-the-mountain salary schedules. And if you recall, we did have a lot of salary schedules that we compared to. But honestly, it came down to our over-the-mountain schools, and that was Mountain Brook, Vestavia, and Homewood. So I do believe that what we've proposed is much more competitive. It well exceeds the state average, and it narrowed the gap between our middle and high school assistant principal salaries. And I ask that you consider that proposal and possibly take action at the next board meeting. Any questions?
And this would go into effect July 1?
This would be in effect July 1, 2021 of this year. That's correct.
Any other questions for Ms.
I just
McKay?
want to ask about the supplement. Is that subjective? Is a AP subject to losing that every year? How does that
So
work?
our extracurricular supplements and the athletic supplements are to be changed and at the privy of the board. What we're asking is that this 4,000 and this 8,000 just be in the place of those additional salary schedules. So that we're asking, yes, maybe there's a time where we could increase that supplement if we need to be more competitive, but we're asking that you not look at that on an annual basis. This would just be part of the salary schedule.
So if the conditions are met in the disclaimer,
Yes, sir.
you automatically get the 4,000 or you automatically get the 8,000?
That's correct. And right now, they're automatically getting that when they move from the master's to the EDS or AA to the doctorate. So that's an automatic once they receive that certification.
Okay, I'm just a hair confused about the supplement as far as athletic or extracurricular. That's going to be an automatic. If you are an AP, you get this amount because we're going to assume you're going to do all those extra activities.
That is correct. So
Okay.
in AP's responsibilities and duties is to supervise.
Yes,
So
all the
that's correct.
extracurricular,
That's
all
correct.
and the athletic. So you would,
Yes.
it would be part of your salary. So the
That's
principal
correct.
or nobody has to.
That's correct. And
meddle
that's
with that.
currently
Okay.
part of their duties
Okay.
and responsibilities. That does not change.
Got
All
it.
we're doing is changing how we calculate their salary
Okay.
and making it more competitive by raising that master's level.
Do our high school, since we are, it sounds like we are raising the middle school salary, right?
Well, actually, they all get a bump in the master's.
Okay.
And then what we did was the middle schools are going to have a little bit bigger bump than our high schools
Okay.
because they were just down here with their duties and responsibilities.
So our high school APs aren't getting cut any pay, right?
Oh, no, sir. There is no one that even needs to be grandfathered. So we did a spreadsheet to show, here's what your salary would be next year if you were grandfathered. And here's what your salary would be next year if we implemented the new salary schedule, and everyone would benefit. Now, some of them may just be $500, but everyone would see some type of benefit from the new proposal.
And when they get, last question, I promise.
Yes, sir.
So
No, you're fine.
when they get the 4,000, when they go from whatever to AA, do they get the $4,000 bump? Is that then their new salary, or do they get paid a supplement every year?
No, that becomes their salary.
Gotcha.
So if my base salary is $60,000 and I get my AA, then now I receive $64,000.
I got you.
Is the supplement subject to retirement withholdings like?
Yes, it is.
So it's all the same.
Because
regardless?
that's how we're trying. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. That is correct. Now, any raises that the state legislature gives, it does not affect the supplement. So the legislative raise will only impact that master salary. It's not going to be an add-on to that 4,000 or 8,000 if you have your doctorate.
So if you make it part of the salary, then it's subject to the state increase and or possible local increase, but if it's a supplement, it's not subject. Make-
And I'm happy to answer any additional questions once you get into the paperwork and start thinking
Very
through the
good.
process.
Thank you.
Yes,
Thank you, Michelle.
appreciate
Yes, sir.
that.
Yes, Michelle.
I appreciate your work with this committee. I know a lot of hard work went into it, and many
Absolutely.
meetings, so I appreciate the time you invested in this.
Thank you.
Ms. Van Wonderham has a presentation for us on student well-being.
Thank you, Board, for having us tonight. I will tell you that Hoover City Schools has been one of the first school systems in our state to recognize mental health as important to our educators and to our students in their learning environment. For the last, actually more than 20 years, that has been the forefront. I know we work tirelessly behind the scenes, the school counselors, our social workers, other support staff, and what we do is not always out in the open. And with the pandemic, I know there's now a big focus on what we do. So I wanted to illustrate just a slide. This in no way shows all the supports we provide our students. This also in no way represents my entire department. A lot of this falls outside of my department, but we all work together. And I think it's important to know that when we look at mental health, we don't just see Candace, okay? Because it is a group activity. It's a function of all of our departments. From Title I, I don't know if Dr. Smith is still here, our school counselors, they're the forefront of our mental health services. They may be the only mental health provider that a student ever sees in their life, okay? Our school social workers work very much with our administrators and our school counselors to provide additional supports to those kids that we know need more. We also know that we have community initiatives, things like RISE. We get support from the community. And I'm going to talk just a brief second about our RISE program this year. Prevention activities. You know, we do a lot in the areas of prevention with Aaron's Law and Jason Flat, our anti-bullying programs. And we're going to talk about Be Kind and how that's grown this year. Our behavior team. Many of our public don't even realize we have a behavior team, but we know often behavior and mental health go hand in hand. So once again, our department works closely with that department. We work closely with Dr. Lowry and his team because we know attendance is often a mask for mental health issues. I actually have to thank Dr. Lowry. He is not here, but he created our schoolhouse image today. He's very talented with Photoshop. But Home is a new initiative that we work very closely with his department on. So again, this is the schools work tirelessly with PST and PBIS, trying to intervene early with some of our students. So again, this is not every support we have in place. There's no way, I didn't have enough windows to put all those in, but I just wanted to start thinking about the fact that we all work together. Okay, there's no one face of mental health and student well-being in our school district.
Ms. Van Wonderham,
yes,
will
ma'am.
you explain to everyone what Home is, a new initiative that you all started this year?
Sure. So we're in an interesting time with the pandemic. Attendance is not the same as it has been for Dr. Lowry and his team in the past. I'm not going to speak too much for that because I'm afraid I'll say something that's not correct. But again, we know we have kids that aren't coming to school and kids who aren't participating virtually. So how do we reach those kids? We've tried several ways to reach those kids. We've developed a district counseling request form so that people can reach out to us because we know mental health issues and substance abuse issues are rising. So we've created that and advertised that. But what else can we do? Right? They still have to access that computer. They still have to pick up the phone. So what we're doing is the Hoover Outreach to Motivate Excellence. So we're going to the home. We're taking a social worker, one of Dr. Lowry's team, and we need to know, how can we help you? What barrier is in place that we can remove? Whether it be social work, whether it be food, transportation, counseling, or do we just need to reach out and let people know, hey, you're still important to us? So those are actual Home Visit is an outreach initiative. And again, working together is those two teams.
Thank you.
So let's talk a little bit about RISE. We had great momentum. We had mentors in the school. We had trained mentors that we were matching, and then we closed, right? Ms. Bonner was a huge support to me this year in that. And I really appreciate that because we were rolling. And it was important, as you heard Ms. Tanner say earlier, we were giving that child an adult, right? Because we know how important an adult connection is for our kids. So we were hoping, at least by January, we could have people in the buildings again. And that's not the case. So thinking outside the box, what do? And this includes virtual kids too. These are not just in-person kids. We went old school and we're doing a pen pal project. Now I say old school because I would write letters and we know our kids don't do that anymore. So it amounts to, we're still matching mentors up with students. We have 32 mentors who are willing to do the pen pal program. I have a feeling we'll hear from a couple of more. And the student writes an email, sends it to the counselor, counselor reviews, copies and pastes it to the mentor, and then vice versa. So again, our counselors are matching up virtual and in-person students. So it's a good way to continue that program. So let's talk about prevention activities. Again, we have a lot of prevention activities. I want to talk a little bit about Be Kind Week and Pink Shirt Day. This year, the goal of Be Kind Week was to make it a community initiative. It's not just Hoover City Schools, it's the city of Hoover. To stand up not only against bullying in the school, but in the workplace, in the community, in our neighborhoods. If we all send the same message, we will be able to reach a lot more kids and a lot more adults. So this year, you can see our community partners, City of Hoover. There'll be a mayor's proclamation on February 15th that will look very much like ours, same message. Chamber of Commerce, who has purchased banners for Highway 31, so you'll see those up pretty soon. The Hoover Library, who actually created our logo this year. They were very kind because they knew Alex was just coming aboard. So they were like, well, he needs to get settled in. We'll take this from you this year. Our Hoover City School Foundation and Neighborhood Bridges and Hoover Helps. And Neighborhood Bridges and Hoover Helps, we are conducting a book drive. And you'll see more information about that tonight on the social media. We are asking for gently used and new books for our elementary kids in our community. So I think this is going to grow. We have businesses that will participate this year, putting up this sign in their windows. Hopefully you'll see this sign in every school, here at Central Office, at the Hoover Library, City. The city is actually going to light City Hall pink for the entire week. I think that's pretty cool.
That's cool.
So next year we just hope to grow, have more businesses participate, and really start spreading this word of kindness. Any questions about that?
The used books, where can you drop those?
Okay, so we have a list of those, and I'll have to get Alex probably to provide that. It is on the social media post tonight. There is a drop off here at Central Office too, but we have elementary schools, middle schools, and 2 high schools, RC3, Spain Park. Not every school is having a book drive, but we do have a list of those.
Very good. That's awesome. Well, thank you for everything that you've done. This woman, she does so much. You've done a fabulous job. So I appreciate everything you do, trying to really touch all of our students.
Appreciate that. Anything else?
Thank you. Thank you. Dr. Lamar.
Good afternoon, everyone. We're going to show, not just yet, a video of Black History. This is part 1 of 2 videos that we will prepare. We wanted to have the first one to introduce Black History Month, so we'll know what that national theme, what it is for this year. Each year there's a national theme. We have some students that Mr. Durant and I went and talked to, some students at Spain Park, Hoover High School, and plugged them into a video, even at Broad Scout. Part 2 of this will actually see the actions. So we wanted to get some live footage of students interacting and doing the actual activities. I will tell you this as well. I was even talking to Mr. G not too long ago, how he's even, integrated this into everything that they're doing. There are some contests going on, you would see at pretty much all the schools throughout the district, and there's over 100 activities that are taking place as it relates to Black history with all the schools combined. So again, watch this first video. This is a clip, but the second one that we create, you will see students interacting and doing the activities. I think that'll be a lot powerful than just showing you the pre-part. We wanted to see the actual action item as well.
When day comes, we ask ourselves, where can we find a light in this never-ending shade? Our striving to forge a union with purpose, to compose a country committed to all cultures, colors, characters, and conditions of man. And so we lift our gazes, not to what stands between us. We close the divide because we know to put our future first, we must put our differences aside. When day comes, we step out of the shade, aflame and unafraid. The new dawn blooms as we free it. For there is always light. If only we're brave enough to see it, and if only we're brave enough to be it.
Those words from Amanda Gorman's Inauguration Day poem have struck a chord across our country and resonate throughout Hoover City schools, and are so fitting now and this month. Please take a moment to hear the theme for National Black History Month, read by Diana Williams from Brock's Gap Intermediate.
The national theme for Black History Month 2021 is the Black family representation, identity, and diversity, and is set every year by the Associate for the Study of African American Life and History, an organization founded in 1950 by Dr. Carter G. Woodson, the famed African American historian known as the father of Black history.
While we celebrate Black history every day, this month we celebrate American history by recognizing African Americans and their achievements. For Tanya Jones, administrative assistant at Simmons Middle School, African American identity holds a special place in her heart.
Well, for me, identity is being appreciated for who we are, and most importantly, having our values recognized and represented throughout our history, the curriculum, our school, and community.
Throughout this month, students across Hoover City schools will embark on various projects to commemorate the month and celebrate our diversity.
In the words of Reverend Martin Luther King Jr., we must learn to live together as brothers or perish together as fools. There may be an infinite number of labels that divide us, but in the end, we are all American.
And so, let's do it. And so that's our introduction to Black History Month. The second video would be more of you'll see the kids engage in the activities. But I did want to go through a few pieces of components of this as well. There are multiple Black History Month essays. I can't even put everything up here. I didn't even try to. I mean, like I said, being well over 100 activities amongst all schools, I think that's an awesome scenario to have. Art and poster contests, famous African-American biographies shared on morning announcements that's taking place throughout as well. STEAM classes are even highlighting African-American inventors as well. Multiple virtual field trips, research projects on the impact and contribution of African-Americans, virtual book readings with African-American authors and our characters. And one of the things that Mr. Rent said in the actual video is that we have this being taught in equity throughout the year. I wanted to just show how we are continuing to maintain equity here. As you all know, even with the equity professional development that's still taking place each 9 weeks, you all know that we have the contract with the Elan Leadership Institute, the curriculum department, Dr. Dotson and Whitney Cook, and there's a committee there. We're all looking at, there's an African-American literature class that will start next year. And so that's been approved also by the state. There's a diverse literature initiative as well. That's another component that where we look at the books that we're teaching in the classroom and sharing in the classrooms and reading some recommendations. As you are aware that we revamped the HR process. We see that process working very well. Moved from an enrichment model to a gifted model. As you all know, Ms. Claire Jones has done a phenomenal job with that as well. We even got some really positive news on the HR, some feedback there from our board attorney that I'll share with you all as well, but very positive news there and with the HR. We surveyed our students regarding advanced classes. You look at this about 3 years ago, we did not have a lot of minority students or African-American students going into the advanced classes. And since we've done the surveys, there were some students who said they were unaware of the classes. There were some that felt as if I was too busy with extracurricular activities, and that may not be a good option for me. But after having those conversations through the school counselors and through the schools, we've seen a major increase there as well. I'll remove the subjective discipline code. So for example, disrespect, inappropriate behaviors, because disrespect to one teacher, if you say yes, sir, or no, sir, or just no in general, may not be as disrespectful to someone else. So making sure that we are speaking the same language and terminology as well here. Currently, we're evaluating our policy norms, professional development, and academic and behavior strategies. So we're putting all of this on the table as we speak, almost like an equity audit is what we're doing. So what does it mean when we say the Hoover way? I think we need to be able to define what that means. We say the Bluff Parkway or the Bumpus way or the Berry way or Pride at like Berry has, just making sure that we are continuing to define exactly what it means. And are we using terminology from like 2001, or we updated this so we can make sure it's inclusive to all students. As you all know, all students are participating in Black History Month as well. And we've even revamping the PBIS model for this year, looking at restorative justice practices. We're receiving training for that as well. So those are alternatives to discipline so that we don't have the first option is to look at some type of consequence. So this may be bringing students together, having conversations, bringing parents together, and building a community between parents as well. And even how we analyze the data, we're looking at that differently. So if we have one student who has 4 or 5 infractions, or how are we looking at that information as well? And as you know, the district equity and parent equity committee are also part of that process as well. So wanted to make sure we updated you on Black History Month, but to show you the first video and tell you how we are continuing to maintain equity as well. Are there any questions from anyone?
Dr. Moore, thank you very much. And I heard what you said too about taking away the subjective choices. We need to be the same, and the guidance we've received, not just from your office, from other entities, have made it very important that we treat all the students equally, that we eliminate segregation in any manner, and that includes discipline, which is extremely important. So thank you for seeing that through. It's very important.
Absolutely. Definitely.
Yes, thanks for all your work.
Absolutely. Well, thank you all for your support. Can I do it without your support? So I sincerely
Excellent
appreciate
job,
it.
Dr. Lamar. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Bradford, if you will come and talk to us about the bell schedule for 21-22. A couple of months ago, it was mentioned at a board meeting that we may need to look at the bell schedule for next year. And Mr. Bradford has spoken to the principals, and I'll just let him briefly talk about our bell schedule and how this will help us, why we've come to the point that we need to adjust the bell schedule. Okay.
As Dr. Simmons said, we met with all the principals. We met with the middle school principals first because they would be the greatest impacted. We also met with the high school principals and elementary school principals along with Dr. Smith. We feel like the new bell schedule proposal will allow us to use more of our current staff. Maybe a year and a half ago, Dr. Murphy asked, could we look at maybe reducing the ride time of the students on the bus, get the students to school, or pick up the students later in the morning, and maybe get them to school a little bit earlier so they would have time for breakfast. As COVID hit and the pandemic hit, we were able to test to see if this would work. Some of our elementary school routes who were doubled with either a middle school or a high school, the routes were shorter in the evening due to the student ridership numbers. So we were able to use a lot of those elementary school buses to cover short-term absences or daily absences. So you see on the schedule, the main change will be, there will not be a change at the elementary school or with Brock's Gap. There will be a change at the middle school, and there will be a change at the high school also. So that will give us a full 45 minutes after the elementary school bell rings in the afternoon to arrive at a middle school or a high school for a double route. And it'll give us a whole hour or 50 minutes a whole hour at the high schools to get over there also. This will not eliminate the possibility in the future that we will have to hire bus drivers. It just will allow us to utilize more of our existing staff, hopefully, to make the ride more comfortable.
So I have one question.
Yes, ma'am.
So with the middle school changing, I mean, it's only 20 minutes, but will the students still be allowed to be dropped off at the same time?
We talked with the 3 middle
Like-
school principals and off-road.
And I'm talking more of your carpoolers,
Yes, ma'am, I believe so. I believe that could still be an option.
because I know, working parents, et
Yeah, and
cetera.
I'm glad if you all want to speak. I know there was some talk about a possibility of a 0 period and middle school principals, not to put you on the spot, but do you mind briefly addressing this?
Well, I think Mr. Irwin has some great thoughts on this. No, first of all, thank you, board, and thank you, Mr. Bradford, for bringing us in on the conversation. Certainly looking at the necessity of moving from an 8:15 to an 8:30 start. Certainly will help with the routes and some of the challenges that we've been experiencing. 15 minutes isn't going to make a huge amount of difference, but it does open up opportunities. One thing that Maddox, Mr. Irwin, and I have been talking about, well, what benefits can we bring for our middle school students because of this shift? 15 minutes can make a big difference in terms of opportunities, whether it be academic, extracurricular, opportunities, maybe some things that even students typically stay after school for, make them available for students. For school, so it does open up some opportunities that we're looking at case by case, campus by campus.
Awesome, thank you.
Thank you.
You mentioned 0 period, but no comment on that. Or did he?
Yeah, he mentioned having something,
Some
before school,
options.
some type of.
Is RC3 included in this vision?
Yes, sir. We talked with Dr. Smith and asked her opinion, and she said they would be available to move also. And when our buses leave the high school in the morning, they'll just continue with RC3 as they do now. They'll just adjust their schedule also.
Great.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. The last report, Dr. Lowry is representing us at the Planning and Zoning meeting tonight. So he shared with me the transfer data that we have to date. The applications are available online and the deadline is April the 15th. But as of today, we've had 219 employee out of district applications, 83 employee student transfers, 22 desegregation transfers, and 9 hardship transfers. Of course, those have not all been approved yet. He'll wait until the deadline closes on April 15th, a few days after that. But I do want to encourage the public to get the transfer application, to complete the transfer application by April 15th, if not before. And that concludes, Madam President, Dr. Dodson has sorry, Dr. Dodson, it was on the next page. Dr. Dodson will provide an update on and he has worked very hard on this. So mid-year academics. Thank you, Dr. Dodson.
Normally, we do not make a lot of fuss about mid-year academic updates, but this is not a normal year. And of course, everyone's anxious to know, what are the impacts of the things we've experienced. So I wanted to share a little bit of this with you today. This is what we call our mid-year academic review. So human clicker. First of all, I just want to go over a few terms that we use. Benchmark assessment. We use benchmark assessments during the year to check on kids' progress. So as opposed to the end of the year state required test, which I call an autopsy, these are medical checkups. So we get the information in time to actually do something about it during the school year. If you'll see on the graph, it shows those bars going up. And so in order to reach the same level throughout the year, the bar gets higher. When you start the year, to be on grade level at the beginning of the year really means to be on the previous grade level. But mid-year, you should be about halfway through where a typical student would be, and so forth and so on. Okay. National percentile rank is how we tell where a student stands in terms of that typical national distribution. And if you look at that curve, you see those 25% marks there. As you go through the year, if I'm considered to be at the 51st percentile, that means that I'm scoring at a point that includes 51% of the national population of students of the same age who took the test at the same time. But as the tests are given at different times during the year, the score needed to reach that same percentile goes up. So if I'm a 51st percentile in the fall and a 51st percentile in the winter, it's not that I haven't learned. I have learned actually, and I'm on pace to reach my typical growth for that year. So the bars go up as we go through. To say that a student is on grade level is to say that they're in the 50th percentile or above. And to say that they're below grade level significantly is that lowest quartile, which is the 25th or lower national percentile rank. That's where students are significantly below grade level and they need help. And we have a progressive series of interventions that kick in at that point, including special ed, ELL, Title I. Title I actually kicks in a little bit earlier than that, but what we call RTI. So we have a variety of tools in our tool bag to typically deal with that lowest area. What about that 25%, that second 25% slot? That's just the area of normal struggle. That's where kids are not quite there, but they're not so far behind that they're in deep trouble yet. Okay. Growth, every student, depending on where they start the year, the assessment is going to give them a target based on their percentile rank of the year, where they need to go. And so that is also assessed as we go through. Growth can also be measured. The state will measure growth from year to year. But when we're using these benchmark assessments, we're measuring growth throughout the year. We're trying to see if they're on pace to reach a typical year's growth. Now, there's nothing typical about the year 2020-21. So, but that's still the measure by which we're comparing it to. Thank you. So where did things stand at the beginning? In the fall, I shared this data with you at the beginning of the year when students first sat down and took our assessments. Mathematics, we had 58% of our students at the time who were considered on grade level, 50th national percentile rank or higher. Compare that to the previous year, which was 64%, which meant we had about a -6% difference. That's what we lost in the spring due to the pandemic hitting, all the kids and teachers having to go home, et cetera. Interestingly, we had a 1% increase in reading. Now, before we get excited and send everybody home to get better reading scores, reading had been an emphasis before the pandemic hit. For about 3 or 4 years, math scores had exceeded reading scores. You can see in fall of 1920, it was 64% versus 61% there. And so there was a special emphasis on reading being put in throughout last year before we got to the pandemic. So what you're seeing there is probably a residual gain that was in place from a lot of work that went into the beginning of that year. The students in need of intervention, mathematics is 19%. And I think that cut off at the bottom a little bit, Alex. I think it's 16% in reading. I don't know if we can go lower there or not. Let's go ahead and go to the next slide. So what happened during the first semester? Well, we had 3,818 students who missed 2 weeks or more of school. That's 28% of our student population. We had 578 employees who lost 2 weeks or more of school. That's 30% of our employees. About 30% of our students were in virtual learning. I've got a little approximation point there, and plus or minus 5%, because that number varied throughout first semester. It was as high as 35%. It was as low as 25%. Currently stands at 26% of our population. It's interesting, though, that 45% of our African-American students were in that virtual population in first semester. Definitely disproportionate representation there. And of those students who chose the in-person option, they had 47 in-person days and 35 remote days first semester. So 43% of their time was remote. So where do we stand now? How do we look at the mid-year of 2021? Mathematics has gone down 1%. 57% of our students are on grade level in the winter. Now you look back to winter of 1920, and that was 66%. So we added another 3%. We were 6% behind in the fall. So in first semester, we lost another 3% from where we were a year ago, but we only lost 1% from the fall, from where we stood in the fall. In reading, we're at 61%, which is a 1% drop from fall and also a 1% drop from where we were in the winter of 2019-20. Students in need of intervention, mathematics went up by 1%. The year before that, that was 15%. So we're definitely seeing struggling students slipping more into that first quartile from the second quartile. And the reading is not visible there. I think it was around 17% in the reading category. And that was a difference, I believe, of about 3% from 1920. Students on pace to meet annual growth requirements, annual growth targets. Well, obviously, this is not, we really don't expect students to meet typical growth requirements, but what is the actual difference this year? We're seeing right now an 8% difference from where we stood last year and a 4% difference in reading in terms of students on pace to meet their annual growth target, which again, not really realistic anyway, but that's not a huge difference. What was interesting to me, I was really anxious to see what the difference would be in terms of the virtual and in-person learning option. And this is a very difficult number to get at because the numbers exist in 3 different databases. But I was able to extract enough to get this little scrap of information. Of our in-person students, 58% were on grade level in mathematics, 52% in virtual, so about a 6% difference there. I expected that to be a bigger number based on some of the anecdotal things that I'd heard. Reading, again, basically no difference. It says plus 1%, but I think that's just noise. Basically no difference in the reading area. So we continue to see mathematics having a greater impact than reading in this time. So what do we learn? Number one, our teachers are amazing. Given what we have been through, the chronic disruption, I don't know what I was prepared to see, but I was not prepared to see single-digit numbers in these losses. So that is nothing but the talent, the work, the sweat, and the blood of our teachers in this time. The staggered schedule did work better than remote. Obviously, we do better when we're in school, when kids are in school with their teacher every day. When we can't do that, the staggered schedule is obviously a lot better than full remote. Mathematics continues to be the greater area of concern, and we know that more students are going to need intervention services, both in the short and the long term. We know there are funds coming. We don't know what the rules and the strings are going to be with those funds yet, but we do know that funds are on the way to help. So possible remedies, we have our response to intervention plan already in place, working after school tutoring, credit recovery, summer remediation. There's even talk about possibly a longer school year, maybe for 1 or 2 years. All of these things are possible things that will be in front of us as we think about ways that we can recover this. The hard thing is most of our things up here, credit recovery, for example, and tutoring, a lot of these are based on the presumption that the person has already had good instruction and just needs some potholes to be filled in, so to speak, and a little help. In these cases, particularly where kids and people were out for weeks at a time, they lost a lot of instruction. And so it's not just filling in potholes. We have roads to build and mountains to get through. And so we need some new ideas. So we have actually created an invitation to our employees, whether individuals or teams, to give us suggestions. We have an open door right now for submissions to the Hoover Learning Frontiers, where we've invited our schools, our people to come up with creative ideas. When this money arrives and we see what the strings and the priorities are, we'll know better what we can or can't do. But it's time to think outside the box and think about what are some ways that we can do things different in the next 2 to 3 years to make a recovery from this loss and to get back on track to where we know our kids need to be. Any questions I can help you with?
Is there any new information on the Literacy Act?
No new information. We're still expecting everything to proceed as as we have planned for it and don't anticipate any problems in meeting those requirements this year. Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Jackson. Thank you. That concludes the superintendent's report.
Okay, the only, I'll do superintendent search update. We do have interviews coming up this Wednesday, Thursday, beginning at 4 in the afternoon. And then they will continue the following week on Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday. All will begin at 4. They will be open to the public, but we will have space issues. So we will try and stream maybe in the lobby if we have a lot of people. But with that said, you will be able to watch the interviews. They'll just be posted on our website after the 5th interview has completed, when we're done. So those will go on. We will try and get them done by that Thursday night, February the 18th. Right? Okay. Anything else I should mention about the interviews? Anything you think of? Any questions? Okay. Our next regular board meeting will be March the 8th at 5:30. And if there's nothing else from our board, we are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.